Hello everyone, and welcome back into another video. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kania, and on this channel we talk about faith, lifestyle, and wellness. And today is day 19 of our 21-day series, Resting in the Lord. And if you have not done so already, I encourage you to click the link down below to the playlist to lead you into the Resting in the Lord series. That way you can be resting in the Lord and you can see what we have been discussing over the past couple of weeks. And so I pray that you are blessed by this series. Those of you that have been tuning into each and every video, let me know down in the comments what God has been revealing to you and some things that has helped you, some things that you have been freed from, some things that God has broken off of you, because this series, the Lord told me that this is a series where things are going to be breaking off of us and we're not going to come out the same. And so I pray that you are encouraged. I pray that you are inspired by these videos and that the Lord has his way with you. So let's get into the video. Today we're going to be talking about the incubation process. In other words, it is kind of corresponding to our season of isolation. But when the Lord gave me the incubation process, I really had to look this up because I'm like, what does that even mean? And we all know the incubation process, you know, when a baby is born prematurely, they have to be in an incubator. But I had to look up the definition on Google and it reads, it is a process in which a bird, etc., keeps its eggs warm until the young come out, or the process in which an egg develops until the stage at which the young come out. So this is a process of development. This is a process of pruning. This is a process of really nurture. And I can speak from experience. When the Lord had me in a season of isolation, it's not easy to go through. God strips us of so many things, of false identities and things that we've come into agreement with. And he really begins to deal with us. And it's all for a greater purpose. God oftentimes hides us to prepare us for what he has for us, to prepare us for our next. And so before God leads us into the wilderness, before he leads us into our incubation process, there are some things that we have to walk away from. There are some things that God will lead us to walk away from, to get rid of, to just part ways with, because it cannot go with us. It can't go with us in this period of consecration with the Lord. It's really just you and the Lord. And so if you are currently in a season of incubation, your isolation season, I want to encourage you that you are not in this alone. God is right there with you. And it is a time with you and him to develop and cultivate a loving relationship. He's dealing with you to heal you. He is breaking you free for some things, from some strongholds that you've been struggling with. It's truly a process to then catapult you into your next. And just speaking from experience, when God led me into my incubation process, there was a lot of things that I had to part ways with. Businesses, friends, jobs, a whole bunch of things. And I did not want to let go, but I had to be obedient to where God was leading me to. And I'm going to be honest, for a period of time, I was angry with the Lord. I was really upset. And I'm like, God, you told me to walk away from all these things. What are you doing? I don't see the blessings. I don't see the manifestation of you. Like, what's going on? And sometimes it can feel like we're in this by ourselves. It can feel like God is trying to punish us, but in reality, God is just preparing us. He is such a loving Father, and he desires the best for us. And he leads us into these incubation processes to develop us, to prune us. And he provides, he gives us provision in this time. He gives us everything that we need, everything that we will need in this process. He is there as our comforter. He is there as our defender. He's there as our provider, as our sustainer. And this time specifically is not a time to think that God is trying to punish you. It's him showing his grace towards you. It's him showing how much he loves you, because all those things that you had to let go of, he has better for you. He has greater for you. And he wants to cultivate you into the person that he so desires for you to be. Who he created you to be is what he wants to mold out of you. And so this is a beautiful time, and we can have joy in this time. And as I mentioned, I was upset with the Lord for a long time. And the moment that I said, you know what, God, I've been upset with you, the moment that I confessed and I began to get vulnerable and honest with God is when things started to open up for me. We all know the story of the Israelites. When they were in the wilderness, they were panicking, they were crying out, they were being disobedient, they were, just complaining and murmuring and not enjoying the process at all. And this is what kept them in the wilderness for 40 years, going around the same mountain, same cycles, because they didn't get rid of the behaviors, they didn't get rid of the habits, they didn't get rid of the patterns, and they could not perceive what God was trying to do. And so God led me to the prophet of Elijah. And I believe a few videos back, I talked about the encounter with Elijah and the widow woman, right? And we talked about how God provides and the provision of God, and how he used the prophet Elijah to speak to the woman so that she can be blessed, right? And if you haven't done so, please go back and watch that video. I believe it might have been the last video talking about God's provision, that God will surely provide. And I think that was a video that I posted about 2 days ago. But he led me back to 1 Kings chapter 17, verse 1 through 7. And it reads, a prophet named Elijah from Tishbe in Gilead said to King Ahab, in the name of the Lord, the living God of Israel, whom I serve, I tell you that there will be no dew or rain for the next 2 or 3 years until I say so. Then the Lord said to Elijah, leave this place and go east and hide yourself near the brook of Cherith, east of the Jordan. The brook will supply you with water to drink, and I have commanded the ravens to bring you food there. Elijah obeyed the Lord's command and went and stayed by the brook of Cherith. He drank water from the brook, and ravens brought him bread and meat every morning and every evening. After a while, the brook dried up because of the lack of rain. And so the Lord will allow us to be stripped. He will strip us from some things. He will tell us to walk away from some things because, first of all, those areas may be drying up and he wants to do a new thing, right? God is always doing a new thing. He's always changing. And we see how Elijah was provided for. God made sure that he had fresh food. He had fresh water every single day. And so the season of incubation is a period of preparation. The Lord told Elijah to leave this place and go east of the Jordan to the brook of Cherith. He told Elijah to leave, and Elijah had to obey. And so some things we don't want to walk away from. We don't want to strip ourselves from. We don't want to say goodbye to, but God has something greater. He has something bigger on the other side. He has a huge assignment and calling on our lives that he has to prepare us for. And we can't do that. We can't, if we don't consecrate ourselves, if we don't go through this process, then we won't be developed. We won't be pruned. We won't be spiritually ready for war. We won't be ready for what's to come. And it's going to be different levels. There's going to be different levels and different challenges and different hurdles and trials and tribulations that we have to face. And therefore, God is so gracious to prepare us before. He told Elijah to leave that place. He told Elijah to leave what was, because it was surely going to dry up. And so those areas that were going to dry up, he was preparing Elijah to. In the next chapter, it goes on to the Lord leading Elijah to go and meet the king Ahab. And so had he not gone through that period of incubation, had he not left those old places, had he not left what God told him to leave to go to the brook of Cherith, he would have never been prepared for the assignment that God had coming for him. And so the incubation process is so pivotal to our growth. It's so important to where God is leading us. We say, God, we want the marriage. We say, God, we want the car. We want the business. We want this, that, and the third. But we don't allow God to strip us of all those old things, to dry up some things, to give us something new, to prepare us for something new. And so we have to allow God to have his way. This is not a time to be upset with God. This is not a punishment from God. And your incubation process is not in vain, because God is doing something miraculous in you, for you, and through you to prepare you for your next. In James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." And so we must endure this process with the Lord, because it is surely going to prepare us for the trials and tribulations to come. And yes, in our incubation season, we do go through a lot of stuff. There is some growing pains that we face, right? There are some hurdles. There are some changes that make us feel uncomfortable, because it's stripping us of what we used to know. It's breaking us from familiarity to get us to a place of growth in the Lord. But as it tells us, consider it pure joy when we face these things, because we know that there is something greater and bigger and so much more fruitful on the other side. We're not going to come out of this incubation process the same. We are not coming out the same way that we went in. We've went in prematurely. We've went in broken. We've went in unhealed, right? And we're going to come out healed. We're going to come out full of love, full of joy, full of the fruits of the Spirit. We're going to come out so much more better than how we went in, because we're going to allow God to do a good work in us. And so I pray that you are encouraged by this word. I pray that you are blessed by this word, and I pray that you will allow God to have his way in your life. Your incubation process is not in vain. It is just preparing you. And you may feel like you're hidden. You may feel like, wow, God, you stripped me from all the things that I love. You stripped me from all the things that I'm used to. You might just feel like you are alone, but you're not. God is right there in the thick of it with you, making sure that all of your needs are met, making sure you have fresh manna every single day. But you have to persevere to get to the next thing that God has for you. And so I pray that you are blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.